Goal 1, renewing our culture in worship through prayer, art, and song. Through the leadership of its clergy, tribes, Eucharistic ministers, and music circle, Grace will support and strengthen the active participation of all gathered in prayer, art, and song. Why? Through the inspiration of God's Spirit, our community's worship and service is a joyful expression of creativity. At Grace, we seek to include all members as active participants in and as contributors to meaningful worship and in our shared spiritual life.
Goal 1, as I understand it and feel it, is to welcome everyone to actively participate in our shared spiritual life and in our worship service. And the vehicles we have for that are our clergy, tribes, the Eucharistic ministers, and our music circle. And I feel this personally, having been a Eucharistic minister and having been part of a tribe for the last 20 years, and to participate in the music circle. When I do, I always feel welcome. And why those things work is it's such an array of ways to connect with the service, whether it's participating in the service, whether it's bringing bread, or whether it's just singing, and feeling to be part of the worship brings it to me. It allows it to envelope me and to feel I feel part of it. It makes us all feel connected, and it makes me feel closer to God. In particular, with regard to music, poetry's great, Bible verses are great, but when you put it into music and it becomes a song, it becomes a direct connection for me to my heart, my soul, and for me to feel connected to God. Our goal is to strengthen the tools and the organizations we have to make them stronger, to make the music circle stronger, to make the small group tribe system stronger, to support the clergy, support the Eucharistic ministers. But I can't wait to be in that sanctuary or even outside in the yard and be singing together. And I also feel the online worship is so important because it allows college students to be able to come if they feel the need to be in church, be able to join us when they're geographically unable, and also when people aren't feeling well or not going out when they feel sick or just under the weather, and they'll be able to still connect with Grace on a Sunday. So I think the silver lining that will definitely come out of this hellish year will definitely be how much more sophisticated we are in being able to connect with people remotely and actually touch them.
Goal 2, inviting, nurturing, and incorporating families, children, and youth. Drawing on our history of vibrant youth ministry, Grace will revitalize our parish's children's and youth ministries for our current context, and will support the engagement of children, youth, and families into all dimensions of parish life. Why? Grace Church is growing as a community in which children, youth, and families are accepted, understood, welcomed, and nurtured. Our shared worship will cultivate an authentic sense of belonging for people of all ages, and our programs will invite children, youth, and adults to grow in their trust of God and one another.
What this goal means to me is just really including all like generations of Grace and allowing children and like the youth to have opportunities to get involved with other members of the church and really kind of discover what being a part of Grace means to them. I feel like I've been really involved in kind of the youth activities especially with like Grace Camp and Camp Resurrección. I had never really been a camp counselor before, so it was all really new to me and like learning how to be a leader. And I think being a camp counselor, especially with Grace and working with these children, is about forming relationships and making connections. Like it shows your values of like what's important to you and just making that connection with other people and what's important to them and just bonding over that and getting over differences and just learning really what you have in common. Well, I really like any like outreach opportunities. Like there was the Sandwiches for Seattle for sixth graders, just being able to give back to the community while like bonding with with people your age and your peers and getting to know them while also doing service is really, I think that's something I look forward to doing in the future. Well, also, I think if we had some way to connect the youth to the older people of the church, whether that was through little groups of hands-on things like learning like a recipe or an art project or some sort of like building something that would just connect people through a shared experience would be really cool to see in the future. Grace is really inclusive and welcoming of all different types of people from all different backgrounds and like different levels of engagement with the church, whether they're really into kind of reading the Bible and doing Bible studies, or if they're just like looking for a community to be a part of. Grace is always welcome to anyone and to kind of discover what they're interested in. And it's also really focused on kind of like social justice and like really modern things. Rather than just reading the Bible and discussing that, we really learn how to put those teachings into context today and how to improve our own lives and kind of the world around us through those.
Goal 3, inclusive, engaged, intergenerational community. At Grace, we will encourage people of all ages and backgrounds to share their gifts with one another, to be in intergenerational and mutual relationships, and to participate in small groups for service, learning, or reflection. Why? In a culture where people are hungry to belong and contribute, Grace will create structures that orient and incorporate people into our common life and help individuals identify and cultivate gifts to share.
Goal 3 relates to Grace's value of inclusive intergenerational community, and it has 4 areas of strategic focus. How we incorporate folks who are new, how we help people identify their gifts and calling for service, then develop and support them as they serve in Grace's ministries, small groups, and tribes. I've been asked, together with Greg Abel, to spearhead the tribes ministry, and for the time being to think with Ren and Stephen and others on how we incorporate folks who are new to Grace. And so we'll be thinking with them also, along with others, about small groups and how we develop and support our leaders as well. I'm really excited to be leaning into this area of Grace's life together in community, because in my experience, the greatest gifts of a church are the people themselves. The people of God are the keepers of the stories. They embody the callings and bear the hopes for the future of that church. And I believe when God wants to do something on the earth, usually God looks for a person or a people who are simply willing to say yes and open their eyes to the needs around them and respond in some way. I'm also convinced that healthy ministry flows through healthy relationships, and that those who are saying yes to serving deserve the best support that we can offer them. So I'm eager to help cultivate those types of relationships with each other. And I'm also motivated by the reality that all around us in our community, outside the walls of the church and beyond the current circle of our life together, are people and families in need of the love and grace and support that Grace can offer. And so I'm excited to be thinking and praying together with others about how to help our tribes and small groups and members expand our circle of community and compassion to the people all around us outside the church. So how can the people of Grace be a gift to them?
Goal 4, pastoral care and outreach, cultivating a culture of service. Grace will equip and empower all parishioners to discern gifts for, be involved in, and be transformed by ministries of service in our congregation and with our neighbors. Why? Each member of our community, no matter their age, is called to pray for, serve, and grow in love for neighbors inside and outside of our congregation.
One of our goals in the last few years of outreach has been to find ways for everyone to get engaged, to find a passion for service for each person and provide easy and concrete ways to make a difference in our communities. I love seeing my children working aside members in the congregation who are in their grandparents' generation. I love the joy that I see between the generations working together. Bringing all of our abilities together enables us to extend our impact into our greater community outside of Grace. And I have enjoyed in outreach getting to know our ministry partners here in Bainbridge and throughout the Kitsap County, and seeing how small acts of service that we do either as individuals or as a congregation can have a large ripple effect in benefiting our community. I hope that in 5 years' time, Bainbridge Island and all of Kitsap County knows that Grace Church is a place that cares deeply for the needs of our community and that offers our deep love and service to those in our community who are in need.
Pastoral care is another of the service ministries at Grace. And one of the goals for pastoral care that comes from the strategic plan is that we want to invite more people to participate, everyone if they can, and people of all ages and abilities. And something that I'm very excited about is the possibility for a project where everyone would discern their own gifts, talents, passions, and we would assemble these into what some people call a bench. It will be some sort of a written record, maybe a database, maybe a spreadsheet. But at any rate, we would keep track of all the things that people have to offer. And as the body of Christ, the church wants to recognize and needs everyone's gift. So the normal associations we have with pastoral care in terms of what we do are making meals, providing rides, praying, and all those are extremely important. But in this project, we're asking for people to think a little bit outside the box. For example, maybe you're really good with power tools. Maybe you are really good taking care of animals, or you like to sing, or you can draw really well and you'd like to draw some get well cards for homebound parishioners, or you're really sharp working on eBay. You know, that's a skill we could use in pastoral care. Or maybe you're a compassionate listener. So we want to have people go through the process of discerning their gifts and compile those gifts into a way that we can use them and include them, and therefore can make everyone a part of the pastoral care ministry.
Lori, when you say that, I'm like, yes, me too. I want to do it. Good job.
Goal 5, planning for sustainability through stewardship and leadership. Grace will use our financial resources, land, and facilities sustainably to serve our mission. This work of stewardship will empower leaders to serve effectively through ministry roles and structures, moving us to grow in inclusion, discovery, service, and gratitude. Why? As Grace grows and matures, our leaders need a plan that is transparent and invitational to all members to direct our resources and efforts towards sustainable ministry.
So when I look at Grace and all of the amazing things that it has accomplished over the last almost 30 years, I think a lot about how we've set in place this strong foundation. But also as we bring in new generations of leaders, and as we think about the future and what we want Grace to look like in another 30 years, there are a lot of pieces that need to be put in place for us to get there. The strategic plan lays out a lot of really great opportunities, a lot of great goals, but we need to make sure that we have the resources in place to make those goals happen, and that we continue to maintain our resources so that we don't move backwards while trying to move forward in other spaces. I think a lot about our property and our finances, and even just the collective knowledge that we've built over the years as we've formed an identity for this community. We need to make sure that we are not only stewarding and maintaining those finances and the property, but also figuring out how we can invest the resources we have to improve our property and to continue to grow our leaders and to build a solid foundation for the future. As we think about growing leaders, we also think about growing paid staff and figuring out how we can marshal our finances to continue some of the things that we've started, such as having an assistant clergy, or to having more full-time staff around music or children's programming. One of my goals is that we can build a community where people can come in and out of lay leadership roles and feel like they have the information and support they need to be effective the first day they enter into that role. I want to make sure that when we create new programs or new systems, that those programs and systems can function even after the people who started them are no longer working on them. This idea of sustainability is largely around the concept that grace is not about one person. Grace is about all of us working together. Ren and Stephen can do a great job to lead us, and they are doing a great job to lead us, but it's up to us to make grace happen. Each one of us has a role to play within the community. Thank you so much for what you're doing to make Grace the vibrant community that it is.